I am Ivan, a 32-year-old business owner from Portland, who watched my family hardware store of 3 generations slip through my fingers. My parents sold what was supposed to be my inheritance to fund my brother Marcus and his cryptocurrency pipe dream to the tune of $120,000. The worst part was not losing the store that I had poured my heart into since childhood, but what happened after his business inevitably crashed, and they came after the company I built from scratch. Drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had family try to take what you worked hard to build. Anderson Hardware was more than just a store to me. It was where I learned to count change, memorized inventory codes, and developed the work ethic that would later save me. My grandfather William started the business in 1952 with nothing but a small loan and a knack for customer service. It was a tiny place back then, barely 700 square feet, but it served the neighborhood when big box stores were not yet on every corner. I still remember the black and white photos that hung in the back office. Grandpa William standing proudly in front of the original storefront, with his wife Martha beside him, both wearing those wide smiles that seemed to characterize that generation. By the time my father Richard took over in 1986, the store had expanded twice and became a cornerstone of our community. My earliest memories revolve around that store. The distinct smell of lumber metal and that special cleaning solution Dad used on the floors every Sunday evening. While other kids spent weekends playing video games, I was learning how to cut keys, mix paint, and help customers find exactly what they needed for their home projects. By age 12, I was working every weekend and summer, not because I had to, but because I genuinely loved it. My brother Marcus was different. 4 years older than me, he viewed the store as a prison rather than an opportunity. He complained constantly about the long hours, the demanding customers, and what he called the small-time mentality of running a family business. While I was organizing nail bins, Marcus was dreaming of California startups and making millions without the decades of hard work our father and grandfather had put in. "This store is just a stepping stone," he would say. "Only suckers stay in one place their whole lives." When Marcus left for college and never returned to work a single shift, my parents consoled themselves with the idea that at least they had me. Richard and Diane would often tell customers within my earshot, "Ivan will be the 3rd generation to run Anderson Hardware. He has sawdust in his veins." Those casual comments solidified into explicit promises as I entered high school. "The store will be yours someday," Mom would say when I stayed late to help with inventory. Dad nodded along, adding, "Your brother has different dreams, but you understand the value of what we built here." That promise shaped every decision I made. I chose to attend Portland State University specifically so I could keep working at the store while earning my business degree. My friends headed to schools across the country, but I stayed believing I was investing in my future. My thesis project was even a comprehensive modernization plan for Anderson Hardware, complete with website design, inventory management software, and marketing strategies. When I graduated, I turned down a job offer from a retail consulting firm that would have paid twice what I made at the store. The recruiter seemed baffled. "You would rather work at a family hardware store than start at $60,000 with us." I tried to explain the intangible value of continuing our family legacy, but the words sounded hollow even to me. Still, I believed. The store was not just a building or a business, but the physical manifestation of our family story. Every nail sold, every customer helped, every repair completed added to that legacy. The community valued us too. When tornado sirens blared in 2011, our store became an impromptu shelter. When the recession hit in 2008, we extended credit to longtime customers who had lost jobs. We sponsored Little League teams, donated supplies to the high school shop class, and knew most customers by name. Mr. Patterson always needed quarter-inch bolts. Mrs. Jimenez came in every spring for gardening supplies. The Rodriguez family consulted us for each of their home renovation projects. My innovations increased store profits by 35% over 3 years. The website I built allowed customers to check inventory before visiting. The new point-of-sale system I implemented cut checkout time in half. The loyalty program I designed brought customers back an average of 2 additional visits per month. Dad was initially resistant to these changes. "We have survived 70 years without computers tracking everything," he argued. but even he could not deny the results when monthly revenues started climbing. I reinvested those profits back into the store. We renovated the lighting, expanded the power tool section, and hired 2 additional staff members. Anderson Hardware was not just surviving, but thriving, in an era when independent stores were being crushed by national chains. Through all of this, Marcus remained distant. Occasional phone calls, rare visits during holidays, and vague updates about his latest ventures in California. I am working with some guys on an app, or I am consulting for a tech company, never with specific details. My parents would brighten at these calls, proudly telling their friends that their eldest was in tech in Silicon Valley, even though he actually lived in a shared apartment in Oakland, and bounced between startups that never seemed to launch. Meanwhile, I was there every day, opening the store at 6:30 in the morning, counting inventory, training staff, helping customers, and closing up at 7 at night. My social life dwindled. Dating became difficult when I worked 6 days a week. Friends stopped inviting me to weekend trips because they knew my answer would always be, "Sorry, I have to work at the store." But I believed it was worth it. Every sacrifice was an investment in my future. Every missed opportunity outside the store was balanced by the knowledge that I was building something lasting, something that would eventually be mine. The store was not just a job, but my identity, my purpose, my future. If I had known what was coming, would I have made different choices? Would I have taken that consulting job? Would I have protected myself from the blind spot that family loyalty created? These questions haunted me later, but at the time I was placent, all in committed to Anderson Hardware, and the promise that one day it would be mine. The day Marcus returned from California changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning in April, and I was helping an elderly customer find the right size air filters when the bell above the door chimed. I glanced up and nearly dropped the filters. Marcus stood there, designer sunglasses perched on his head, rolling a sleek suitcase behind him. "Surprise," he announced loudly, arms spread wide. "The prodigal son returns." My father emerged from the back office, eyes wide with shock and delight. "Marcus, why did not you tell us you were coming?" They embraced while I finished with my customer, a knot forming in my stomach. Marcus had not been home in nearly 2 years, and unexpected visits were not his style. That evening, my parents insisted on a special family dinner. Mom made pot roast, Marcus's favorite, and Dad broke out a bottle of expensive whiskey he had been saving for a special occasion. Apparently, my brother's unannounced return qualified. Over dinner, Marcus finally revealed the purpose of his visit. "I have been developing something revolutionary," he announced, eyes gleaming with the same excitement I had seen before his previous ventures. "A cryptocurrency trading platform that will democratize financial freedom for everyday people." Despite having no background in finance or technology beyond basic coding courses, Marcus spoke with absolute confidence about blockchain, decentralized finance, and algorithmic trading. My parents nodded along, clearly not understanding the terminology, but captivated by his enthusiasm. "The timing is perfect," Marcus continued. "We are about to enter the biggest crypto bull market in history. Early investors will make millions." When I asked about his development team, funding sources, and regulatory compliance plans, Marcus waved dismissively. "Those are just details, little brother. The vision is what matters. I need seed funding to get this off the ground, then venture capitalists will be fighting to get in." My father leaned forward. "How much do you need?" $120,000 should do it," Marcus replied casually, as if requesting spare change. "For server costs, legal fees, and a small development team." I nearly choked on my pot roast. That is a massive amount of money for a business that exists only in your head. Mom shot me a disapproving look. "Your brother has been working in technology for years, Ivan. He knows what he is talking about. Working adjacent to technology companies is not the same as having the expertise to build a trading platform," I countered. "Financial technology requires serious security measures, regulatory compliance, and extensive testing." Marcus smirked. "Still the cautious one, I see. This is why you are still here selling hammers while I am creating the future." For the next 2 weeks, Marcus stayed at our parents' house and continued his pitch. Each day he showed them flashy presentations, competitor analyses, and projected revenue streams that promised returns of at least 500% within 18 months. I recognized the exaggerated projections and cherry-picked data for what they were, but my parents were entranced. I tried reasoning with them privately. Marcus has started 4 businesses in the last decade and none of them succeeded. Remember the food delivery app, the social media platform for pet owners, the smart water bottle? My father crossed his arms. Those were learning experiences. Everyone fails before they succeed. But he is asking for $120,000, I emphasized. Where would that even come from? My mother and father exchanged glances. We have some savings, Mom said vaguely. It was at a Sunday family dinner that they finally revealed their plan. My father cleared his throat after dessert and announced, "Your mother and I have made a decision. We are going to help Marcus with his business." I nodded, assuming they meant a small loan from their retirement fund. Then came the bombshell. "We are putting Anderson Hardware up for sale." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You are what?" "The store has been valued at around $320,000, my father continued, avoiding my eyes. "After we pay off the remaining mortgage and some credit card debt, we will have enough to invest in Marcus's venture and still keep a cushion for ourselves." I looked between my parents in disbelief. "But the store? You always said it would be mine someday." My mother reached across the table and patted my hand. "Plans change, honey. Marcus needs this opportunity now, and we are not getting any younger. The store requires so much physical work. Work that I have been doing. I have put my entire life into that store. I turned down careers, relationships, opportunities, all because you promised me the store would be my future." Marcus interjected. "Look at it this way, Ivan. When my platform takes off, the returns will benefit the whole family. You can finally leave retail behind and do something more significant." "The store is significant," I shot back. "It is our family legacy. It is 70 years of community service and trust." My father's expression hardened. "We built that legacy, not you. We put in the decades of work before you were even born. And I have dedicated the last 15 years of my life to continuing it." "That was your choice," my mother said softly. "Nobody forced you to stay." The conversation devolved from there. My parents minimized my contributions, suggesting I had merely been an employee rather than a partner in building the business. Marcus portrayed me as resistant to change and lacking vision. By the end of the evening, I felt gaslighted about my own life experiences. The sale process moved with shocking speed. A regional hardware chain had apparently been interested in our location for years and made an offer within days. My parents accepted $320,000, slightly below market value, but with a quick closing timeline. I watched in numb disbelief as strangers conducted inventory assessments and facility inspections. Regular customers asked me what was happening, and I had to explain that Anderson Hardware would soon become Tri-State Home Supply, a corporate entity with standardized inventory and pricing. "But we have been coming here for 30 years, Mrs. Hernandez said, tears in her eyes. "Your father helped us build our deck. Your grandfather taught my husband how to rewire our basement." I had no comforting response. The store that had been the center of my universe was being reduced to a dollar amount transferred to my brother for a business venture based on hype and promises. The day we handed over the keys was the hardest. The new owners immediately began removing the hand-painted Anderson Hardware sign that my grandfather had commissioned in 1952. I watched from across the street as workers dismantled physical pieces of my identity and loaded them into a dumpster. My parents seemed surprisingly unbothered. They gave Marcus a check for $120,000 that same afternoon. The remaining funds, approximately $150,000 after debts and fees, went into their retirement account. "This is seed money for your future," my father told Marcus proudly, as they took a photo together holding the check. I could not help but think about how that money represented the seed of my future that had just been uprooted. The worst part was not just losing the store, but realizing that my parents had never truly seen my dedication as investment in a shared dream. To them, I had simply been maintaining their asset until they decided to liquidate it. As I drove away from the empty shell of Anderson Hardware for the final time, I felt hollow. 15 years of my life, thousands of hours of work, countless sacrifices, all erased with a signature on closing documents. Everything I had planned for my future had vanished. At 32 years old, I was starting from scratch. The weeks following the store sale were among the darkest of my life. I moved out of my apartment near the hardware store and into a cheaper studio across town. Without the daily structure of opening the store, ordering inventory, and helping customers, I felt adrift. My phone remained silent except for the occasional customer who had not heard about the sale and was calling my personal number for advice. I avoided family gatherings and ignored the enthusiastic updates from Marcus about his business launch preparations. My parents seemed to interpret my distance as sulking rather than genuine grief over losing my livelihood and purpose. "You will thank us when Marcus's company takes off," my mother texted. I did not respond. The turning point came unexpectedly. Tom Brennan, who had supplied our store with premium tools for over a decade, called me for lunch. We met at a small diner, and he got straight to the point. "I heard what happened with the family store," he said, stirring his coffee. "It is a damn shame. You made that place better than it had ever been." His acknowledgement of my contributions nearly broke me. After weeks of having my work minimized by my own family, hearing validation from someone who had witnessed my efforts was overwhelming. "What are your plans now?" Tom asked. I shrugged. "No idea. Apply for retail management positions, I guess." Tom shook his head. "That inventory system you built for Anderson Hardware was brilliant, and the customer database you maintained. Those are valuable skills, Ivan. Skills that go beyond just running a hardware store." As we talked, Tom explained that many small businesses struggled with the same issues I had solved at Anderson Hardware. Inventory management, customer relationship tracking, order fulfillment. All fundamental challenges for independent retailers trying to compete with chains and online giants. "You understand both the technology and the human side of small business," Tom said. "That is rare." That conversation planted a seed. What if I could take the systems I had created for our store and develop them into solutions for other small businesses? The hardware store may have been sold, but my knowledge and experience could not be taken from me. I spent the next week researching small business software, identifying gaps in existing solutions. Most inventory systems were either too complex and expensive for mom and pop shops or too simplistic to be truly useful. There was a middle ground that remained unserved. Using $30,000 from my savings, I rented a small office space above a bakery downtown. It was nothing fancy, just 400 square feet with scuffed floors and windows that stuck when you tried to open them. But it was mine. No family expectations. No promises that could be broken. My first hire was Jordan Chen, a software developer I had met at a local business networking event. Jordan had worked for a major retail chain developing their inventory systems, but had grown disillusioned with corporate culture. When I explained my vision for tools designed specifically for small independent businesses, Jordan was immediately on board. "The big guys have all the advantages already," Jordan said during our first working session. "It is about time someone built technology that levels the playing field." We brought on Stephanie Ramirez, a UX designer, who understood that our potential clients were not tech-savvy and needed intuitive interfaces. Our fourth team member was Miguel Ortiz, a recent business school graduate who had worked in his family's restaurant and understood the challenges of small business operations. Those early days were both exhilarating and terrifying. We worked 12-hour days, subsisted on ramen noodles and coffee, and slept on the office floor when deadlines loomed. Our first product was an inventory management system, specifically designed for small retailers with easy onboarding, minimal training requirements, and affordable pricing. We called the company Inventory Pro, a straightforward name that communicated exactly what we offered. Our initial marketing was guerrilla style, with the four of us visiting small businesses in person, demonstrating the software on tablets and offering free trials. Our first major client was Emerald City Books, a local chain of 3 independent bookstores struggling to track inventory across locations. When we implemented our system, their inventory accuracy improved from 70% to 98% within 2 months. They became our most vocal advocates, referring us to other independent retailers in the area. Word spread. Within 6 months, we had 40 clients and had moved to a larger office. By our one-year anniversary, Inventory Pro had expanded to include a customer relationship management module and a simplified accounting system. Our team grew to 12 people, each bringing new ideas and perspectives. The irony was not lost on me. While Marcus had convinced our parents to invest in his flashy cryptocurrency platform, I had built a company solving unglamorous practical problems for businesses similar to the one my family had sold. There were no promises of 500% returns or disrupting global finance, just reliable solutions to everyday challenges. 18 months after launching, we had 15 employees and were serving over 200 businesses across the Pacific Northwest. Portland Business Journal ran a feature on us titled, "From Family Hardware to Software Success, Ivan Anderson's Second Act." The article detailed how I had leveraged my experience in a traditional retail environment to create technology solutions for similar businesses. My parents never mentioned seeing the article. Marcus sent a text saying, "Nice write-up. Still thinking small, I see." I deleted it without responding. By our third year, Inventory Pro had reached $2 million in annual revenue. We expanded our product line to include point-of-sale systems, employee scheduling tools, and e-commerce integrations. Our client base grew to include not just retailers but also restaurants, service providers, and small manufacturers. What made me proudest was not the revenue, but the company culture we created. Unlike the toxic dynamics of my family business, Inventory Pro operated on transparency, shared goals, and mutual respect. We celebrated team wins collectively and addressed challenges collaboratively. No one person, including me, held all the power or made unilateral decisions. Every employee received equity in the company, ensuring that everyone benefited from our collective success. We implemented flexible scheduling, paid family leave, and continued education stipends long before they were standard practices. The result was a team that was deeply invested in our mission and rarely looked for opportunities elsewhere. "You have built something special here," Stephanie told me during our third anniversary celebration. "Not just the products, but the environment. People actually want to come to work." That validation meant more to me than any revenue milestone. I had not just created a successful business, but a healthy community, the antithesis of what my family business had become in its final days. I occasionally drove past the former Anderson Hardware, now a glossy tri-state home supply with standardized shelving and corporate-branded signage. The personal touches were gone. The knowledge and relationships built over decades replaced by corporate efficiency. It still hurt, but the pain had transformed into something more like nostalgia than active grief. Inventory Pro had become my new legacy, one I had built without family promises or inherited opportunities. It was mine in a way that Anderson Hardware never truly had been. And unlike my brother's venture, it was built on solid foundations, solving real problems, rather than chasing trendy technologies. Little did I know that this success would soon attract unwanted attention from the very people who had dismissed my business acumen when it came to the family store. 8 months after receiving $120,000 from my parents, Marcus launched his cryptocurrency trading platform with a flashy event at a rented venue in downtown Portland. I received an invitation but declined to attend. From social media posts, I gleaned that he had hired models to serve drinks, rented a luxury car to park outside the entrance, and commissioned an ice sculpture of the company logo. The platform itself, branded as Crypto Elevate, promised automated trading algorithms that would guarantee returns in any market condition. The marketing materials claimed proprietary technology that could predict market movements and execute trades faster than competitors. For someone with limited technical background and no experience in financial markets, Marcus had certainly mastered the language of hype. Early reviews seemed mixed. Some users praised the sleek interface and low initial fees, while others complained about slow transaction times and difficulty withdrawing funds. Marcus dismissed these criticisms on the company blog as expected growing pains and promised updates that would make the platform even more revolutionary. I tried to maintain distance from the situation, focusing instead on growing Inventory Pro. However, Tom Brennan, who had become something of a mentor to me, kept me reluctantly informed. "Your brother is spending money like water," he told me during one of our monthly lunches. Billboard advertisements, sponsored influencer posts, even radio commercials. At the rate he is burning cash, that 120,000 will not last long. The first major warning sign came 3 months after launch. A user on a cryptocurrency forum posted a detailed analysis of a transaction error that had caused them to lose several $1,000s. Instead of addressing the technical issue, Marcus had the company's social media manager accuse the user of operator error and spreading FUD fear, uncertainty, and doubt. The post went viral within the crypto community, damaging Crypto Elevate's already fragile reputation. More complaints followed. Users reported missing funds, incorrect balances, and customer service tickets that went unanswered for weeks. Marcus began blaming his development team, publicly firing his lead engineer and claiming on the company blog that sabotage from disgruntled employees was responsible for the platform's issues. 5 months in, disaster struck. Crypto Elevate experienced what Marcus termed a security incident, but what industry news sites accurately described as a major data breach. User information, including emails, phone numbers, and transaction histories, was compromised. Even worse, the weak security protocols Marcus had implemented to save money meant that some wallet connections were exposed, leading to actual financial losses for customers. Regulatory agencies took notice. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, opened an investigation into Crypto Elevate's compliance practices. The Oregon Department of Consumer and Business Services issued a warning about the platform. Class action lawsuits from affected users began to materialize. By month 7, Crypto Elevate's website displayed a simple message, temporarily offline for maintenance. We apologize for the inconvenience. It never came back online. The $120,000 was gone, along with any additional investment Marcus had managed to secure. Several vendors remained unpaid, and former employees reported receiving bounced checks for their final pay periods. Marcus himself seemed to vanish, his social media accounts suddenly inactive. I learned about my parents' resulting financial crisis not from them directly, but from my Aunt Susan, who called me in a panic. "Have you spoken to your parents recently?" she asked, her voice tight with concern. "Not in months," I admitted. "Why?" "They are in trouble, Ivan. Real trouble. The money they got from selling the store, most of it is gone." According to Susan, my parents had not only given Marcus the $120,000 for his business, but had also loaned him an additional $40,000 when he claimed to need emergency funds to fix critical platform issues. They had invested almost all of their remaining savings in cryptocurrency, at Marcus's recommendation, buying at peak prices before the market crashed. "They are 3 months behind on their mortgage," Susan told me. "The bank is threatening foreclosure, and Marcus has apparently moved to Florida without telling them. He is not answering their calls." My initial reaction was a complicated mix of vindication and concern. I had warned them repeatedly about Marcus's track record and the risks of his venture. Yet these were still my parents, the people who had raised me despite their profound betrayal regarding the store. I drove to their house that evening. The property already showed signs of neglect, with overgrown grass and peeling paint. My mother answered the door, her face registering surprise and then shame upon seeing me. "Ivan," she said quietly, "what are you doing here?" Aunt Susan called me. She told me what happened with Marcus and the money. My father appeared behind her, looking older than I remembered. "We do not need your judgment right now," he said stiffly. "I am not here to judge," I replied, though part of me wanted to. "I want to understand what happened, and if I can help." They reluctantly invited me in. Over the next hour, they detailed the financial catastrophe Marcus had created. Beyond the initial investment and additional loan, they had co-signed leases for his office space and equipment. When Crypto Elevate collapsed, they became responsible for those obligations as well. "We trusted him," my mother said, wiping tears. "He showed us projections, testimonials from experts, everything. It all seemed so legitimate." "Did you ever verify any of it?" I asked. "Speak to those experts. Review the financial models." My father shook his head. "We are not tech people." Marcus assured us his team had vetted everything. What team, I could not help asking. He hired 3 recent graduates and a marketing consultant. None of them had financial technology experience. How were we supposed to know that my father snapped? He is our son. We believed him. You could have asked me, I said quietly. I offered to review his business plan. I warned you about the risks. My mother looked away. We thought you were just jealous of his opportunity. The comment stung, but I pushed past it. What is your financial situation now, exactly? The numbers were grim. They owed $180,000 on their mortgage with no way to make payments. Credit card debt had ballooned to $30,000. Their retirement account, once healthy, was down to less than $20,000 after ill-advised cryptocurrency investments. And, Marcus, I asked. Last we heard he was in Miami, my father said bitterly. He sent a text saying he needed space to regroup and plan his next venture. That was a month ago. I sat back, absorbing the magnitude of their situation. I can help, I said finally. I can loan you enough to catch up on the mortgage and avoid foreclosure. But I need to set some conditions. My parents exchanged glances. What kind of conditions, my mother asked. First, full financial transparency. I need to see all accounts, debts, and obligations. Second, you both need financial counseling. Third, if Marcus contacts you asking for money for another venture, you consult with me before responding. My father's expression darkened. So you want to control us? Is this payback for the store? This is not about payback, I insisted, though his accusation contained a grain of truth. These are reasonable boundaries for someone providing financial assistance. We are your parents, my mother said. You should help us because we are family, not because we agree to your demands. Family works both ways, I countered. You sold the store that was promised to me without discussion. You dismissed my concerns about Marcus's business. Now you are asking for my help, but rejecting basic accountability. The conversation deteriorated from there. My father accused me of enjoying their misfortune. My mother suggested I had never truly understood the sacrifices they had made as parents. I left without resolving anything my offer of conditional help refused. As I drove home, I wondered if I had been too harsh, too focused on my own lingering resentment. But another part of me recognized that helping them without boundaries would likely enable further poor decisions. They had chosen Marcus's hollow promises over my demonstrated reliability. They had valued potential over proven performance, and now they were facing the consequences of those choices. I did send them a check for $3,000 the following week, enough to cover one mortgage payment with a note reiterating my offer of further help if they agreed to my conditions. The check was cashed, but I received no acknowledgement or response to my offer. For the next 2 months, we maintained minimal contact, occasional text messages, and brief phone calls that avoided any mention of their financial situation or Marcus's whereabouts. I focused on Inventory Pro, which continued to thrive despite the awkward family dynamics playing out in the background. I had no idea that my parents were formulating a plan that would make the hardware store situation seem minor by comparison. The first sign of trouble came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was reviewing quarterly projections with our financial officer when the reception desk called. "Your parents are here to see you," the receptionist said, confusion evident in her voice. "They say they do not have an appointment, but are sure you will want to see them." In the 3 years since starting Inventory Pro, my parents had never once visited our offices. They had not attended our launch party, our 1-year anniversary celebration, or the open house when we moved to our current location. Their sudden appearance sent warning signals flashing in my mind. Still, they were my parents. "Send them to my office," I told the receptionist. They arrived moments later, looking surprisingly upbeat given their financial circumstances. My mother carried a gift basket filled with baked goods. "For your team," she explained, placing it on my desk. "We thought it was time we came to see what our successful son has built." My father glanced around my office, nodding appreciatively at the awards and press mentions framed on the walls. "Impressive," he said. "You have done well for yourself, Ivan." Their praise felt hollow, after years of dismissing my business acumen. "What brings you here today?" I asked, not bothering to mask my suspicion. "Cannot parents visit their son's workplace?" my mother asked, feigning hurt. "We realized we have never properly acknowledged your accomplishments here." My father nodded. "We may have underestimated your vision. The article in Portland Business Monthly really opened our eyes to what you have created." That magazine had published the feature on Inventory Pro 6 months earlier. Their sudden interest felt calculated rather than genuine. "Let us take you to lunch," my father suggested. "We would love to hear more about your operation here." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We walked to an upscale restaurant nearby, where my parents insisted on ordering expensive wines and appetizers despite their financial troubles. Throughout the meal, they asked detailed questions about Inventory Pro's business model, revenue streams, and organizational structure, showing more interest in my work than they had in years. "How many employees do you have now?" my father asked. 23, I replied. "And your annual revenue?" "Just over 3 million. My mother beamed. "That is wonderful, honey. And to think you built this all by yourself." "Not by myself," I corrected. "I have an incredible team. We built it together." My father leaned forward. "But you are the founder, the visionary, the one who makes the final decisions. We have a collaborative leadership model," I explained. "Major decisions are made by consensus among the executive team." My father waved this away. "But legally you own the company, right?" "I am the majority shareholder," I acknowledged. "But several key employees also have equity stakes." The conversation continued in this vein with increasingly specific questions about ownership structure, decision-making processes, and financial controls. By dessert, my suspicion had crystallized into certainty this was not a social visit. Finally, my father laid his cards on the table. "Your mother and I have been thinking about your company's future," he said, as if Inventory Pro were a family discussion topic. "We believe we could help you take it to the next level." "Help how exactly?" I asked, though I already knew where this was heading. "I could come on as a senior advisor," my father suggested. "With my decades of retail experience, I could provide valuable guidance. Perhaps with a small ownership stake, say 20%, to align our interests." My mother nodded enthusiastically. "And I could handle office management, customer relations, that sort of thing. We could move closer, perhaps even stay with you for a while to help you focus on growing the business." There it was. After losing their financial security through Marcus's failed venture, they now saw my successful company as their salvation. Not as something to be proud of, but as something to be acquired. "That is an interesting proposal," I said carefully. "But Inventory Pro already has established leadership and processes. We are not looking to restructure or bring on new advisors at this time." My father's expression hardened slightly. "You should at least consider it. Family businesses are stronger when they involve actual family." "Inventory Pro is not a family business," I pointed out. "It is a technology company I founded with colleagues after you sold our actual family business." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. My mother broke it with a forced smile. "Just think about it, honey. We only want to help. After all, we have so much experience we could contribute." I paid the bill despite their token protests, and walked back to the office in tense silence. At the lobby, I thanked them for lunch and said I had meetings to return to. My father grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. "We are serious about this, Ivan. Your company could help secure our retirement, and we could help you grow faster. It is a win-win." "I will think about it," I lied, extracting my arm from his grip. I hoped that would be the end of it, but over the next few weeks, my parents escalated their campaign. They sent emails with unsolicited business advice. They showed up at our office happy hours to get to know the team. They even scheduled a meeting with our product manager, under the guise of being potential clients, only to spend the hour suggesting feature changes and questioning our pricing strategy. When these indirect approaches failed to gain them a foothold, they became more aggressive. My father somehow obtained the contact information for one of our angel investors and reached out directly, introducing himself as Ivan's father and business partner. The investor, confused, forwarded me the email in which my father suggested a meeting to discuss family succession planning for Inventory Pro. Meanwhile, my mother began spreading subtle misinformation among our employees. She told our newest developer that I was planning significant organizational changes and implied to our office manager that I was considering bringing in more experienced leadership. These comments, repeated to me by concerned staff members, were clearly designed to create instability and make my team question my leadership. The situation came to a head when my parents arrived unannounced at our quarterly all-hands meeting. As I was presenting our roadmap for the coming year, they walked in and took seats at the back of the room. I stumbled over my words, thrown by their presence, before regaining my composure and continuing. After the meeting, I asked them to join me in my office. "This has to stop," I said, firmly closing the door behind us. "You cannot keep showing up unannounced and interfering with my business." "We are just trying to get involved," my mother protested. "To support you." "No, you are trying to take control of something I built because you made poor financial decisions with Marcus. Inventory Pro is not your backup plan." My father's facade of supportive interest finally cracked. "You owe us, Ivan. We gave you your start in business. Everything you know about retail and customer service you learned from us at the hardware store. A store you sold out from under me," I reminded him. "And yes, I learned from that experience. I learned never to build my future on someone else's promises." "We are your parents," my mother said, tears forming. "Family helps family." "I offered to help you," I countered, "with reasonable conditions that you rejected." My father's expression darkened. "Well, now we are offering a different arrangement. Either bring us into your company with meaningful roles and ownership stakes, or we will explore our legal options." "Legal options," I repeated incredulously. "On what grounds?" "Intellectual property, for one," he said. "The inventory system you built at Anderson Hardware was developed while you were our employee. The concepts you are using here came from our business. It was such a transparent attempt at manipulation that I might have laughed if it were not so infuriating. That is not how intellectual property works, and you know it. I suggest you consult an actual lawyer before making threats." "We raised you, my mother," said her voice quivering. "We gave you everything. How can you turn your back on us now?" The guilt trip might have worked years earlier, but I had grown beyond their manipulation tactics. "I am not turning my back on anyone. I am protecting what I built after you sold what was supposed to be my inheritance. There is a difference." They left in a huff, my father warning that I would regret this decision. As I watched them go, I felt a complex mixture of anger, sadness, and resolution. The parents I had worked so hard to please for decades were now actively threatening the second chance I had built for myself. That evening, I called an emergency meeting with our legal counsel and executive team to brief them on the situation. "My parents may attempt to cause problems for the company," I explained. "I want to make sure we are protected." Our attorney, Sandra Wilson, took comprehensive notes. "Based on what you have described, they have no legitimate claim to your intellectual property or business," she assured me. "But we should document the harassment and interference to prepare for a cease and desist if necessary." The following day, we implemented security protocols that I had never imagined would be needed against my own family. Receptionist instructions were updated to not allow my parents into the building without an appointment approved by me. Staff were briefed that no company information should be shared with them. Our IT department added extra verification steps for account access and password resets to prevent social engineering attempts. These precautions felt extreme, even paranoid, but the next few days proved them necessary. My father attempted to meet with 2 more investors. My mother called several employees at home fishing for internal information. They even approached one of our largest clients, suggesting that leadership instability might affect service quality. Each of these boundary violations was documented meticulously by our legal team. What had begun as an awkward family disagreement was evolving into something that threatened the stability of the business I had worked so hard to build. The certified letter arrived on a Thursday morning. The return address showed a law firm I did not recognize, and my stomach tightened as I sliced open the envelope. Inside was a formal legal threat, claiming that my parents were entitled to compensation for their instrumental role in the conceptual development of Inventory Pro's core technology. The letter claimed that the inventory management systems I had developed at Anderson Hardware constituted intellectual property, belonging to the business, not to me personally. Since my parents had been the owners of that business, they were asserting rights to the derivative works created at Inventory Pro. It was legally nonsensical, of course. I had not transferred any code or proprietary systems from the hardware store to my new company. The concepts of inventory management were not patentable or copyrightable. But the letter demanded either a settlement of $500,000 or substantial equity position and executive roles for both my parents. I immediately called Sandra, our company attorney. After reviewing the letter, she confirmed my assessment. "This has no legal merit whatsoever," she said. "But the fact that they have escalated to legal threats indicates they are serious about pursuing this." We scheduled an emergency meeting for that afternoon. In the meantime, I received a disturbing call from Jordan, our lead developer. "Ivan, something weird just happened," Jordan said. "Your father called me directly on my personal cell phone. He offered me a director position if I would share internal documents about our software architecture." Similar reports came in throughout the day. My parents had apparently obtained our employee directory and were systematically contacting staff members with various manipulative offers and requests. Some were promised promotions in the new structure. Others were subtly threatened with job loss if they remained loyal to the old guard. During our emergency meeting, Sandra laid out our options. "We need to send a cease and desist letter immediately," she advised, "and we should consider a temporary restraining order to prevent them from continuing to contact your employees and business partners." But the most alarming information came from our IT security team. They had detected multiple attempts to access our company servers from unfamiliar IP addresses. While these attempts had been blocked by our security protocols, the logs showed persistent, sophisticated efforts to breach our systems. "We cannot prove it is connected to your parents," our IT director said, "but the timing is suspicious. Someone is very interested in accessing our proprietary information." The situation escalated further when we discovered my parents had approached Inventory Pro's main competitor, RetailSoft, with an offer to provide insider information about our product roadmap and client list. Fortunately, the CEO of RetailSoft was an ethical businessman who immediately informed me of the approach. "They claim to be major shareholders in your company," he told me over the phone. When I expressed doubt, they said they would soon have significant ownership one way or another. That evening, I called an all-hands meeting to address the mounting crisis transparently. Standing before our entire team of 23 employees, I explained the situation without sugarcoating it. "My parents are attempting to gain control of Inventory Pro through various means, including contacting many of you directly," I said. "I want to be completely clear, they have no official role in this company, no ownership stake, and no authority to make offers or requests on behalf of Inventory Pro." I assured the team that their jobs were secure and that we were taking legal steps to end the interference. "I apologize that my family issues have spilled into our workplace," I added. "This is not what any of us signed up for." To my immense relief, the team responded with unanimous support. Several shared their own experiences with difficult family dynamics. Stephanie, who had been with me since the beginning, stood up and addressed the room. "I have worked with Ivan for 3 years," she said. "In that time, I have seen him build this company with integrity, always putting our clients and employees first. Whatever his parents might claim, Inventory Pro exists because of Ivan's vision and our collective hard work." Her words brought an unexpected lump to my throat. While my biological family was trying to undermine everything I had built, my chosen family of colleagues was standing firmly behind me. The next day, our attorney sent a formal cease and desist letter to my parents and their lawyer demanding they stop all contact with Inventory Pro employees, clients, and investors. We implemented additional security measures, including new access protocols and enhanced monitoring of our digital systems. Despite these measures, I knew a legal response alone would not resolve the underlying issue. This was still my family, however, dysfunctional. After consulting with Sandra, I decided to confront my parents directly one final time. I drove to their apartment complex that weekend. They had been forced to sell their house months earlier and were now living in a small 2-bedroom unit in a suburban development. The contrast with their former upper-middle-class lifestyle was stark. My mother answered the door, surprise registering on her face. "Ivan," she said cautiously, "we did not expect to see you." "I think we need to talk," I replied. "Face to face, not through lawyers." My father appeared behind her, his expression guarded. "Have you reconsidered our proposal?" "I have received your legal threat," I said, stepping inside, without waiting for an invitation, "and I am here to tell you personally that it will not work." In their small living room, I laid out the facts plainly. Their legal claims had no merit. Their attempts to contact my employees constituted harassment. Their approach to our competitor could potentially be considered corporate espionage. Each of these actions was documented, and would be presented to a judge if they continued. "You are not just threatening my company," I explained. "You are risking what remains of your reputation and financial stability. If we go to court, you will lose, and you will be responsible for my legal fees as well as your own." My father's face reddened with anger. "So you are threatening us now, your own parents?" "I am being honest with you," I corrected. "Something I wish you had been with me about the store, about Marcus's business, about your intentions toward my company." My mother began to cry, a tactic that had often worked to deflect difficult conversations in our family. "We have lost everything," she said between sobs. "The store, our savings, our house. Cannot you understand why we are desperate?" "I do understand," I said, softening slightly. "That is why I offered to help you months ago with conditions you rejected. But trying to take over my company is not the answer." "We built you," my father shouted, his composure finally breaking. "Everything you are, everything you know, came from us. That company should be ours too." His words revealed the core delusion that had driven their behavior. In their minds, my success was merely an extension of them, a resource they were entitled to control. "Inventory Pro exists because of what I built after you sold the store," I said quietly but firmly. "It exists despite you, not because of you." The room fell silent. My mother had stopped crying and my father stood speechless, perhaps truly hearing me for the first time. "I am willing to help you rebuild your lives," I continued. "But not like this, not through threats and manipulation. If you want my support, it will be on terms that respect boundaries and acknowledge reality." "And if we refuse," my father asked, his voice smaller than before. "Then the cease and desist stands. Any further interference with my business will result in legal action, and our relationship, whatever remains of it, will likely not survive." It was the hardest boundary I had ever set with my parents, but in that moment I knew it was necessary not just for my company but for my own well-being. My parents did not respond immediately. My mother looked to my father, who had always been the decision-maker in their relationship. He seemed suddenly older, the fight draining from his expression. "We need time to think," he finally said. "Take all the time you need," I replied, standing to leave. "But the interference with my company stops today." As I walked to my car, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The parents I had sought approval from my entire life had finally shown the limits of their love. It extended only as far as my usefulness to them. Yet acknowledging that truth, painful as it was, freed me from the cycle of seeking validation they were incapable of giving. In the weeks that followed, the legal threats were withdrawn. My parents ceased contacting my employees and business partners. Through my Aunt Susan, I learned they had both found modest jobs. My father at a garden center, my mother at an insurance office. They were slowly stabilizing their finances without my intervention. 6 months passed without direct contact. Inventory Pro continued to thrive, opening a second office in Seattle and expanding our product line. I began working with a therapist to process the family trauma and establish healthier patterns for my future relationships. One of the most healing projects was a mentorship program we launched for young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds. Called Next Gen Retail, it provided training resources and seed funding for people looking to start small businesses in their communities. In a way, it honored the positive legacy of Anderson Hardware while creating something new and forward-looking. Then, one ordinary Tuesday, an email appeared in my inbox. The sender was my father, the subject line, simply, "Apology." The email sat unopened in my inbox for nearly a day. After months of no contact, seeing my father's name triggered a complex mixture of emotions. Part of me wanted to delete it unread to maintain the peaceful distance I had established. Another part was curious if genuine reflection had finally occurred. When I eventually opened it, the message was brief but unprecedented in our family's history. "Ivan, your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking these past months. We were wrong about many things, the store, Marcus's business, and especially how we treated you and your company. If you are willing, I would like to meet for coffee and apologize properly. No agenda, no requests, just an overdue acknowledgement of our mistakes." "Dad," I showed the email to my therapist during our next session. "What do you think I asked? Is this genuine or another manipulation tactic?" "That is something only you can determine," she replied. The question is whether you are willing to find out, and what boundaries you need to protect yourself if you do. After careful consideration, I responded with a suggestion to meet at a coffee shop near my office the following weekend. I specified a public location and a time limit of 1 hour, precisely the kind of boundary setting my therapist had encouraged. When Saturday arrived, I was surprised to see only my father waiting at the table. In our family, difficult conversations typically involved both parents, with my mother providing emotional support for my father. "Your mother wanted to come," he explained, noticing my questioning look. "But we decided it would be better if I took full responsibility first." This was largely my doing. He looked different, thinner, grayer, but somehow more present. The defensive armor he had worn for decades seemed partially dismantled. "I have been seeing a counselor," he continued, surprising me further. "Part of our debt repayment program required financial counseling, but the advisor suggested I might benefit from personal counseling as well. I was resistant at first, but—" He paused, visibly uncomfortable with this level of vulnerability. "It has helped me see some patterns: control, entitlement, using people rather than supporting them." I nodded, unsure how to respond to this unfamiliar version of my father. "The store was supposed to be yours," he acknowledged. "We promised it to you, and you worked for that promise. Selling it without proper discussion was wrong. Giving that money to Marcus, despite his track record, was foolish. And trying to take over your new business was—" He struggled to find the words inexcusable. The acknowledgement landed like a physical weight being lifted. For years I had carried the burden of doubting my own memories, wondering if I had misunderstood the promises made or overestimated my contributions to the family business. "What about Mom?" I asked. "Does she share these realizations?" "She is getting there," he said carefully. "Change is harder for her. But losing the house, having to work entry-level jobs at our age, it has been a wake-up call for both of us. Marcus still has not contacted us, by the way." I was not surprised. My brother had always moved on quickly when situations became uncomfortable. "And how are you managing financially?" I asked. "One day at a time. The apartment is small but affordable. Your mother's insurance job has decent benefits. I am working at Lincoln Garden Center. The owner actually knew me from when I ran the hardware store." He smiled faintly. "We are never going to be wealthy again, but we are stable, and we did it ourselves without dragging anyone else down." There was a note of pride in his voice that I had not expected. Perhaps hitting true bottom had forced a reset of values that success and comfort had previously masked. We talked for the full hour, longer than I had spoken with my father in years. He asked questions about Inventory Pro, not with the calculating interest of before, but with genuine curiosity about something important to me. I shared some of our recent successes and challenges, keeping details appropriately vague, but allowing him a window into my professional life. As our time drew to a close, he asked, "Would you be open to meeting again? Perhaps with your mother next time. She has things she needs to say too." I considered the request. The conversation had gone better than I had anticipated, with no manipulative undertones I could detect. "I think that would be okay," I said cautiously. "Same boundaries, though. Public place, set time limit." "Of course," he agreed readily. "We need to earn back your trust. We understand that now." Over the following months, we established a careful, limited reconnection. Coffee every few weeks became occasional dinners. My mother joined these meetings, initially reserved but gradually more open about her own part in the family dysfunction. "I always followed your father's lead," she admitted during our third meeting. "It was easier than having an opinion that might cause conflict. I am trying to find my own voice now." They never asked for money again, nor for involvement in my business. When I mentioned Inventory Pro's expansion to Chicago, they offered congratulations without any hint of seeing it as a resource they could tap. When my father expressed interest in seeing our offices, he added immediately, "Only if that feels comfortable for you and your team. I understand if it does not." These small acknowledgments of boundaries were more meaningful than grand apologies could have been. 6 months into our cautious reconciliation, I invited them to a company event, a casual outdoor gathering, celebrating our 4th anniversary. As guests, I clarified, not in any official capacity. They accepted with appropriate gratitude, and on the day of the event they mingled respectfully with my team, introducing themselves simply as Ivan's parents, without any hint of the entitlement they had previously displayed. Stephanie pulled me aside during the party. They seem different, she observed. Less predatory, I suggested with a small smile. She laughed. I was going to say, intense. But yes, that too. Watching my parents interact politely with the company I had built, I reflected on the painful journey that had brought us to this point. The loss of Anderson Hardware still ached occasionally, but Inventory Pro had grown into something far beyond what the small retail store could have become. Perhaps the betrayal, painful as it was, had forced me to create something truly mine, unencumbered by family legacy or obligation. My relationship with my parents would never be what it once was, nor what I had once hoped it might be. The trust damaged by their actions could not be fully restored. But we were finding a new equilibrium, a relationship between adults with clear boundaries and modest expectations. The greatest healing came not from their changes but from my own. Through therapy, supportive colleagues, and the success of building something authentic, I had learned to validate myself, rather than seeking that validation from parents who had been unable to provide it consistently. The Next Gen Retail Mentorship Program became a particular source of fulfillment. Working with young entrepreneurs, many from backgrounds where family support was limited or complicated, allowed me to transform my painful experiences into something constructive. I was particularly careful to help these young business owners establish healthy boundaries with well-meaning but potentially controlling family members. Business and family can mix, I would tell them, but only with clear agreements, transparent communication, and mutual respect. The moment someone suggests you owe them your success is the moment to reassess that relationship. Inventory Pro continued to expand, reaching $10 million in annual revenue and opening offices in 3 additional cities. We maintained our commitment to supporting independent retailers, helping them compete in an increasingly consolidated marketplace. Many of our original clients, like Emerald City Books, grew alongside us, proving that small businesses could thrive with the right tools and support. As for my parents, they adjusted to their scaled-back lifestyle with surprising grace. My father found unexpected satisfaction in the simplicity of garden center work, helping homeowners select plants without the stress of ownership. My mother discovered a talent for customer relations at the insurance office, eventually earning a promotion to office manager. They never fully acknowledged the depth of what had been lost, not just financially, but relationally through their choices. Some wounds were too profound, some betrayals too fundamental for complete healing, but they learned to live within their means, to take responsibility for their circumstances, and to relate to me as an independent adult, rather than an extension of themselves or a resource to be tapped. The most important lesson I carried forward was the recognition that family business dynamics can create toxic expectations when boundaries are not established early and maintained consistently. The business becomes not just a commercial enterprise but an emotional battleground where roles blur and professional decisions carry personal weight. In building my own company culture, I consciously created the opposite environment, one where contributions were recognized, boundaries respected, and success shared. We celebrated individual achievements while acknowledging their place within our collective effort. No one person, including me, was considered the sole source of the company's value or success. Have you ever experienced the complicated dynamics of mixing family and business? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Also, if this story resonated with you, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel for more real-life experiences and lessons learned. And if you know someone struggling with family business boundaries, sharing this video might help them feel less alone in their journey. Thank you for listening to my story today, and remember that sometimes the most painful losses can lead us to build something even more meaningful than what we thought we wanted.